As we all know, on May the 18th last year, Tony Abbott's political career ended when his seat was taken from him by independent Zali Steggall. She won that seat of Warringah on the night of the election. It was a historic night, the end of Tony Abbott's career. I was there that night, but the Liberals, of course, are very keen to win that seat back. One of the people who's been charged with trying to do that is the Liberal Senator for New South Wales, Andrew Bragg. He joins me now from Canberra. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. You've been getting around Warringah, getting to know the people, how you might be able to win them back. You even got to set up an office there.
Well, it's important to recognise that as a senator, I mean, you represent the whole state, but I'll be paying special attention to that seat, which we held from the 20s until recently. And I think the first order of business for me is to really listen carefully to the people of that area as to why we don't hold that seat anymore. So
you're actually going to have your senatorial office in that electorate?
I will have a permanent physical presence in that office, that's right, in that electorate, that's right, Chris. And I think it's important that people have access to a member of the government, because at the end of the day, it's only members of the government that can actually get anything done.
So this will be a senator. How many of the other senators for New South Wales have offices out and about in the community, or are most of them in city office blocks?
Well, I can't speak for my colleagues, but I mean, I do take my role seriously in representing the whole state, and I think my travel records would show that I get all across the city and the bush. I grew up in the country myself, so I like getting out and about. But I mean, look, senators have to, I think, operate as House members from time to time, and it's a good thing to do, to get close to the community.
So you're the unofficial Liberal member for Warringah then. What are the options for the Liberal Party? Do you think that seat's turned away from the Liberal Party, or it was just a chance to end an old and perhaps divisive chapter of politics by making sure that Tony Abbott was pushed to the sidelines after the same had happened to Malcolm Turnbull?
The sequencing is important here. We really do need to commit ourselves to listening to the community and hearing why exactly they didn't support our party in the last election. But then moving on to, obviously the next campaign, I think the first order of business is really quite self-evident, that an independent member won't be effective, won't be able to deliver anything, can't actually deliver legislation or a bill or any particular agenda. So I think being impotent, but also being misaligned, I think will be self-evident. But it's way too early for us to sort of jump into the next election. The first thing we have to do is to make sure that the people of that seat know that there's a government representative in that area.
Surely you're not going to try and out-Zali though, are you, with some of the moderate Liberal, net zero green evangelism?
No, I think our policy's absolutely sound, Chris. I don't know why the Labor Party and others have adopted policies which they haven't even bothered to cost. I mean, if you read through the...
well, because your own New South Wales Liberal Party has done the same thing. Your own New South Wales coalition government has committed to the same target.
Yeah, but you've got to have the modelling, Chris.
Well, they don't. So, I mean, I agree with you. It's a good criticism of federal Labor, but when you ask, you don't know why they've done it, your own party's done the same thing.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, these things are the matters of and the preserve of the national government, Chris, and what matters is the policy that we take to the climate conference later in the year. But, I mean, in the interim, if people wanted to adopt a particular policy prescription like net zero, we want to see the modelling. And so if you look at the climate bill that's been put forward by that member, it adopts that particular policy but doesn't show how it will be costed. So it's got no credibility.
Now, if you're going to be working around Warringah, I think you're an AFL bloke from memory, aren't you, Andrew? But have you got yourself an NRL team? Are you going to back the Sea Eagles?
Yeah, I will. And you've asked me this before. I mean, look, I love Geelong, and I will always be a Geelong man, but I will actually adopt an NRL team, and I think that's a good thing to do.
Fair enough. Now, when are the Liberal Party actually going to get a real candidate? You need a candidate on the ground, really, rather than a senator, right?
Oh, of course, but that will happen in good time. I mean, we're at 2 years or so, at least, from the election, so that will happen in good time. And for now, as I said, the most important thing is that the people of Warringah know that we haven't given up on them, that there's a government representative, that I'm available, and that's important.
Thanks for joining us, Andrew. Appreciate it.